I'd say everybody take their seat, but there's not enough seats in here. What a crowd. Only in Fairhope. It's beautiful. Okay. All right, if I can ask you all, if you're coming in to stand against the wall, sorry we ran out of chairs. Appreciate you being here. And we'll give everybody just another moment or so. Are you Ty? Good to see you. All right. Shane, we ready? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. May I ask everyone to rise for tonight's invocation and ask you to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation will be given by Pastor Ty Ulrich of Celebration Church in Fairhope.
All right. Thank y'all so much for coming. Honored to be with y'all. Let's bow our heads and let's pray. God, we love you. God, we're thankful for the opportunity to be joined together. God, I just ask for this meeting to be efficient. And God, I pray that it would just be respectful. God, I pray that it would just allow us all to come together from every part and just be able to play a part in your kingdom and your community. God, I just pray, Father, that you would give us wisdom like Solomon. God, give us courage like David, and give us strength like Samson. Father, allow us to make the right decisions in every decision, God. God, I just pray, Father, Scripture says that if we, the people who are called according to your name, will humble ourselves, repent of our sins, and turn to you, you will hear our prayer and heal our land. And God, it more than any board member, more than any leader, more than any presidential candidate, more than anything that we could ask or offer, God, you are the one that could heal our land. So God, I just ask, Father, that you make a difference in our hearts tonight through the differences that are spoken through from each individual to the differences spoken through the leaders. God, I just pray that you are with us. Give us wisdom to see you the way that you would have us see you. God, be with everyone tonight. We love you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Ulrich. Okay, council item 18. The procurement of the cable television services for the City of Fairhope Rec Center has been pulled from tonight's agenda, pending some conversations with our IT consultant. We'll get that back on at a later date if necessary. First item on tonight's agenda will be to approve the minutes of the March 10th regular City Council meeting and the minutes of the work session. Do you have any changes, additions, deletions to those minutes?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all is in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion carries. Mayor Sullivan, your report, please.
Thank you. Just a couple things. First, I want to thank the Fairhope Arts and Crafts Foundation and the Eastern Shore Arts Center for a great Arts and Crafts Festival, and also the Dogwood Trail, who were there to make their debut. The court was on Sunday. The Arts and Crafts Committee, both the Eastern Shore Arts Center and the foundation, really had to be nimble this past weekend and make sure, or 2 weekends ago, to make sure they could adjust to the weather and everything, and did a great job. I think everybody who came really enjoyed the festival, and appreciate all their work on that. Also wanted to report that we did take the Junior City Council to Montgomery, which was a great trip. Really enjoy getting to be with them and kind of educate them on how a bill gets through the House and the Senate at the state level, and look at their excitement and talking about how they can get involved. And we got to hear a bill. Lisa was there. Lisa organized the whole trip, but got to hear a bill about teachers' workman's comp. They didn't even realize their teachers didn't have workman's comp, so it's kind of fun to see them debate that and talk about the importance of that. So it was a great trip, and glad we're able to do that. Also wanted to recognize Richard Johnson, Christian Preuss, Councilman Burrell was there. Fairhope received the Norman J. Walton Award for the Arts Alley from the South Alabama Regional Planning Commission, and that's basically a project that is done by government, but it's a collaborative effort, which absolutely that was. It was Eastern Shore MPO funded with federal highway funds. So many of the businesses participated. We had Eagle Scouts. We had, again, the businesses, the high school art students, Coastal Alabama art students. So a lot of great collaboration there. Hannah Legg did a great job with the murals. So happy about that award and glad we were able to receive that and just so proud of that project. The other thing I want to do while I'm here is recognize Mandy Bezaretti. Mandy, if you'll come up. On the council agenda tonight, there's an item to revisit the parking authority, and we had created that authority under state guidelines. And when we did, we also kind of went and changed the guidelines a little bit to help ourselves, and really wanted people who are engaged in the community and Fairhope businesses to be able to participate. Mandy is one of those folks that we put on the committee. She was very instrumental in doing the parking study at the parking deck. Has really been a great contributor. Not to mention, she's with Coastal Alabama Community College, so she feels our parking woes here in Fairhope. Has also done a great job of increasing parking there on the campus. They'll be opening a small parking area there on the campus for faculty, one that can be used on the weekends, also for public parking. And just want to recognize her for her commitment to the city and to the parking authority. And it just says for your dedicated service, volunteering your time and talents to the City of Fairhope Parking Authority. So Mandy, thank you for your service, and we appreciate you. Thank you. And then the other thing I want to do while I'm here, and council, please feel free to chime in. I want to kind of address, I guess, the elephant in the room, or why most of the crowd is here, to talk about the Alabama Public Library Commissioner service that we have at the state level. I had the opportunity on Friday evening to talk to Mr. John Wall, who is the director of that commission or that committee, and talked about the everything that you've read in the media about the funding being paused. It was not cut. The funding was not cut. It was only paused. After, when they met, the Fairhope Public Library was not on their agenda, but a resident spoke under public participation. A resident of Fairhope spoke and brought to light some issues that they felt the library was facing in the how they categorize books. And so the commission did vote to pause funding until they did some investigation, but part of that motion was also to immediately reinstate those funds if everything were to check out adequately. So again, it's only been paused. We have already received 2 installments of that payments because you receive them quarterly. We received 2 installments, and our next installment would not come until June. So the other thing, Mr. Wall said that he does think that we can find a resolution to this issue. I think there are some things he and I talked about some miscommunication, about some definition of, clarification on what's obscene, what's sexually explicit. There's some language in there about community standards. What does that mean? So there were several things that we talked about. We did make a commitment to one another to make sure we keep open lines of communication, not only with the library board, but also with the city, and he promised to do that. I have since talked to him again, and had some clarification on those things. I think the biggest thing is there are some, the way the state is defining minor. Right now, we have a children's section that's up to age 12 and a teen section that's 13 to 17. According to the state, anything that should not be exposed to a minor is for anybody under the age of 18. So I think those are some things that we need to clarify. We do meet APLS guidelines as far as our policies. Those were approved by APLS, and right now we are meeting those guidelines with this small issue that we're having with making sure that we're meeting the age category for those books. But again, we are committed to keeping those lines of communications open. I believe he's reached out to the library's board and to the staff, and hopefully sometime this week we'll get resolution to that, and again, hopefully have that funding reinstated. So I just want to reassure anybody who's here, there's not an appetite by the council that I'm aware of to defund the library. The city provides, I think, close to $900,000 in funding to the library. We also funded a capital campaign for them to about $300,000 in the capital campaign. We have no desire to cut any of that funding. And again, there was only a portion of that funding from the state that is only paused right now, and we think we can get that reinstated pretty quickly. So again, I want to thank the library board and the staff for the time this has taken to kind of navigate. Thank the council. We've spent numerous hours on the phone this weekend and today just making sure that we understood what was going on, because again, we don't run the library board and the staff does that, but we want to make sure that, Fairhope is not portrayed in a light that we do not want it portrayed, and unfortunately that's what's happened in the media. this past weekend, and so I want to make sure we understood all the issues that we were facing tonight. So if any of the council would like to chime in, that's really my statement on that. And again, I'm sure there'll be a lot more conversation, but again, at this given point in time, there is no defunding of the public library. There is only a pause in funds from the state, and again, that was only equivalent to maybe about $21,000 because they receive about $42,000 annually from the state, and we've already received 2 installments of that payment. So we're only in question just a little over $20,000, and that certainly would not shut down the Fairhope Public Library.
Council, I'm going to wait until the council comment section for me to address this issue. You're free to speak now, or you can wait through the council comments portion. Either way.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. Okay, next item on the agenda is public participation for agenda items only. Item 5 is a public hearing, so if you wish to speak to item 5, I'd ask you to refrain from doing so until we get to item 5. But if you would like to address the council on items 6 through 24, the podium is open. If you'd come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, items 6 through 24. I am very sensitive that most of you in the room that probably would like to address the council would like to speak on an item that's not on the agenda, which we allow for at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. We do have 24 items. I do think that we will go through the agenda pretty quickly, so you won't be here for hours waiting. I would think maybe even half an hour at most. I mean, so if you'll just be patient, we will get to you. So, but anyway, if you want to speak to the council on items 6 through 24, the podium's open. You'll be given 3 minutes. Okay, seeing no one, I will close public participation for agenda items and remind everyone you'll have an opportunity to bring anything else that's on your heart to the council at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. Council comments. Councilman Martin.
Well, I think the mayor spoke on most of the information that we have gathered from some of the misinformation and disinformation that was out there by speaking directly to the horse's mouth. But in my opinion, as far as me, I have no regard to defund our library, okay? So I can honestly say that. I don't know what good that would do. I think that we can come to some type of middle ground and we can make the adjustments that we need to make. If we're not following the law, we will follow the law or the statutes that have been created for this state as far as the Alabama rules are concerned. I don't think we have a problem with that. There may be some things that we have to do to rearrange to get in that position, but I think we're right there and they're very minor. I think that there were some communication issues, like the mayor has spoken, that kind of discombobulated the information of what we were doing. But the spirit of what we're doing, I think we were trying to follow the spirit of the law, but if we find that we were not, we will correct it. So I don't think that we will be losing any funds at all, and I think this will be cleared up sooner than most would think.
Councilman Conyers.
Yes, sir. Just have a couple comments. Also, like Councilman Martin, no interest in defunding the library. I would like to thank the library board and the staff. I mean, we have volunteer board members. Everyone needs to keep that in mind. I mean, they're doing this for free. They're doing it because they love the city. They love the library. They don't have an agenda. They're just trying to do the best they can to manage the library and the affairs of the library. And I feel like even in the conversations the mayor had with Mr. Wall, we have checked the box on 2 of the items for sure. One was the library cards, which now have an opt-in phase where parents get to decide what access for checking out materials their children can have or the minors can have. And then the other, we have checked the box on the policies. Those have all been approved by the APLS. And so the only issue in question was about the books placement. I know 5 books have been moved from the teen section to the adult section. So really at this point, my understanding is we're talking about a couple of books that people have issue with, or where they're placed. I'm sure we'll be able to resolve this, and I just want to thank again the board, the staff for all your work, and I know this isn't something you envisioned when you signed up and volunteered, that you would deal with this quite as frequently as you have, but y'all have done a good job of just continuing the course and trying to do the right thing, so appreciate it.
Councilman Robinson?
Sure. I'll try not to repeat everything that everybody said, but just to sort of break this down and be as factual as I can about it. And you know, obviously, there's a lot of passion in this room because you don't get this kind of turnout when people don't feel strongly about a topic, one side or the other. But basically, what this boils down to is that there seems to be just a simple misunderstanding or a simple gray area as to what qualifies in what category and what does not. And I want to make sure everybody understands this is not a situation where our library has been openly defiant about the rules. My understanding from the library is that they believe they are in compliance with the rules that were put in place by them, ultimately to mirror what's imposed by the state. There is some question as to whether or not that's true or not, and so Mr. Wall with the Alabama Public Library Service is going to come down and just look into that. And obviously, if we are in compliance, the funding will resume immediately. And if we are not, we will be given the opportunity to get compliant, and the funding will resume immediately. I think, obviously, this has gotten a little bigger than I think it was intended to. But please understand that there is no desire, obviously on behalf of the city council and the mayor, to defund or unfund our library. And I don't believe that motive exists from the state either. I think they were presented with information and decided to pause funding and then investigate, as opposed to investigate before pausing funding. And so whether you have some criticism of that being maybe backwards or not, the hope is that we will ultimately get some resolution to this very quickly. And based on what mine and the mayor's conversations were with Mr. Wall and everything we know from the library, we expect this to be resolved in favor of the library, and hopefully very soon. So hope that puts a lot of you at ease and maybe gives everybody a little peace of mind that the things that maybe you were concerned about coming in here tonight are not really an issue.
You know, just so it's unanimous, I'll also state for the record that I would have no intention in defunding this library, but I want to make a couple of strong statements because I don't want APLS to think that it's okay. I take exception to being called the worst library in the state. I think we're the best library in the state. So, thank you. And I'm sorry for what the board and the staff is going through. Thank you for being strong. We can have a difference of opinions as to what we think is appropriate or not. I think if you get into the minutia, we may disagree on some of that, but these are trained professionals doing what they think is right by the law. And if there's a misinterpretation or something's been missed, you know, we will, as Councilman Martin and I believe everybody else has said, we will make that right. I also don't want them to think that it's okay. I take exception. I don't believe that we were given a due process. You know, I don't like the fact that someone, just anybody, can go to Montgomery and make some comments and cause a pause in our funding without the further investigation. I am very pleased that they're going to come and visit the library, but I'm sorry, I do take exception to the fact. That's not America. I mean, America allows due process. And so, you know, I'm not trying to pick a fight with APLS, but I want to send a message that I don't think that's okay. I mean, this is America, and I think that we're Americans, and we, especially, I would say, the overwhelming majority in this room feels that we have a freedom of speech or a freedom to read, and that's what's dear to everyone in here, and we cannot lose that, and I am in fear of losing that right now, as many of you may be. We have got to stand strong in the face of that, and I believe that we could all agree to that. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate everyone being here and showing their support for our library. And I will say once again, you know, there may be some things that we have to comply with, and we will comply with state law, no matter what it takes. I mean, if you go to a trial and a decision is rendered, sometimes you may not be happy with that decision, but we will comply with what those decisions are, and that is state law. So I'm not saying that we're going to be such rebels that we're not going to comply, because we are, but we just need to have our due process. So with that, I'll close council comments, and we will move on to agenda item number 5, which is a public hearing to amend ordinance number 1253 to consider the request from the City of Fairhope Planning and Zoning Department for an amendment to Table 3.1 of the City of Fairhope zoning ordinance. Mr. Simmons?
Always put me in a tough spot, you know, getting into
Don't
the
you like to
exciting
follow that?
zoning world, you know. This is a simple one. There is a use within the zoning ordinance that has been in place since 1952. Hasn't been edited, to my knowledge, hasn't been used, and it is boarding houses and dormitories. We are proposing, the Planning Commission has also unanimously recommended to approve this, to redact that use for now. And the only reason I say for now, we don't want to strike it completely, because there may be something out there that's happened in the last 70 years, and we don't want to cause problems for them. So if there is, the rules are still there, still apply until we can ensure there's nothing around, but this would prevent any new uses then coming in or applications coming in after this ordinance is adopted. It's simple as that. It's amending the use table. We've got an example there, the way our use table works. There's dots for uses that are allowed per zoning district, and we're striking all those dots there. There would be some commentary added to the zoning ordinance if this passes that says, you know, as of this date, anything prior will follow these rules. Otherwise, no new applications will be received. And I'm here if there's any questions.
Questions for Mr. Simmons, council?
I'll introduce the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Lisa winking at you over there. Somebody introduce it. All right, very good. We'll open the public hearing. If you would like to speak to this item, if you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, you'll be given 3 minutes.
There's a lot of pro boarding house people in this crowd. I'm going to be very surprised.
Let me get out of the way. I felt the rush.
Speak now, forever hold your peace.
If there's anyone there. Okay. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Council, I have heard from at least one of you that you may wish to vote on this tonight, so if you would like to do that, I would need a motion to suspend with the rules and vote for immediate consideration.
Council President, I would like to make a motion to suspend with the rules and move for immediate consideration.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on that motion? I don't think that we're going to be harming anything by voting on that tonight. So, Clerk, will you call the question?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4?
Aye.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion for final adoption.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, if you'll call the question.
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is final adoption of ordinance to amend zoning ordinance number 1253 at the request of the applicant, Jay Broughton, on behalf of the owner, Talawampa Properties, for conditional annexation to R1 low-density single-family residential district. The property is approximately 5.20 acres and is located at 0 Gayfer Road Extension. This was introduced at our last city council meeting.
Thank you, Council President. This is a final adoption, and I'm going to really breeze through this and encourage anyone. This has actually been discussed. I believe this is our fourth city council meeting and a planning commission meeting. So there's any questions, you can look at those videos. But this is a simple rezoning request for R1. It was re-advertised to meet the R1 requirement. This does come to you from staff and planning commission with a recommendation of approval.
If I can piggyback on that, Hunter, and the default, if you're requesting annexation into the city, has always been R1, and so that's all there, which is our least dense residential development, 15,000 square
15,000 square
foot
feet.
lots. I'll entertain a motion for final adoption.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, if you'll call the question.
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 7 is the final adoption. City of Fairhope property located at Section Street and at 705 Twin Beach Road, I believe that is, in Fairhope, Alabama, containing 15.146 acres more or less. And you see the tax parcel numbers listed there. This was also introduced at the March 10th, 2025 City Council meeting. This is actually City of Fairhope property. This is where some of this property is being leased to the Hope community. And Hunter, I'll let you carry it on from there. You want to add to that?
And this was, this did not come through the staff and nor planning commission. This is straight application to the city clerk. We have kind of, obviously all know about this, so we don't have any problems in the planning department.
The mayor was the applicant, by the way, and it would come in as R1, and we discussed in the work session potentially,
And if you
changes
think I'm
if
going
necessary.
to
It's
that,
a little bit
that
different.
application.
Yeah, that's kind, did you sign, and who approved the application? Did you have to do that too? No. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for final adoption.
So moved.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all is in, clerk, please call the question.
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 8 is the final adoption of an ordinance amending ordinance number 522 and repealing and replacing ordinance number 1779 Parking Authority, Section 20 to 31. Said parking authority or committee shall be composed of 7 members, and all such members shall reside in the city of Fairhope and be over the age of 21 years. This was also introduced at the last city council meeting. We covered this in the work session. So I'll entertain a motion for final adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll just add that this was, making this ordinance compliant with the state statute creating the City of Fairhope Parking Authority. Okay. Hearing no other discussion, clerk, will you call the question?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Item 9 is final adoption, an ordinance to approve an application from Richard T. Barrett for a franchise agreement for tennis and pickleball at the Mike Ford Tennis Center. This was introduced at the last city council meeting. Pat also briefed us on this in the work session. I believe we all should be familiar. This is just a process in which the council has to approve all franchise agreements. I think they'll be teaching tennis and pickleball, and for that, we receive a 20% gross on their premium. So I'll accept a motion for final adoption.
So moved?
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, will you call the question?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Item 10, we got a lot of ordinances on here tonight. Item 10 is an ordinance for annexation from Casa Azul in Fairhope. The property is located at 18348 Greeno Road in Fairhope, and it is to be zoned B1 Local Shopping District. You'll see
Council
the
President, I'll introduce the ordinance.
ordinance has been introduced.
And again, this is also a straight application to the city clerk. We did have a brief review on this, on what is the most similar zoning district. So there is a pathway forward for annexation that comes straight to the city council. If Baldwin County has the property zone, they can request of the city council for the most similar district. We determined B1 was that most similar district. in the planning department, the applicant can say, no, we want a different zoning, but that would follow the conditional annexation process that goes back to planning commission. The city council does not have to approve this, can choose another that may also trigger going back through planning commission. I do believe there are, Council President, we spoke earlier and you asked about some conditions. Typically, we don't like to have conditions on straight zoning cases. They're hard to find written in an ordinance. But theoretically, if you did want some restrictions on there, it can be done within this process as part of B1. I would guide that if it was especially in the goal to be most similar to what is currently zoned by Baldwin County.
Mr. Simmons, one of the reasons I asked about the conditional, if we wanted to impose conditions or restrictions on this request, was that to the south, it looks to be some storage units, but to the east, there is a residential neighborhood, I believe.
That's correct.
That's Southland. And that's why I asked, was there anybody in opposition at the county's hearing for this property? And, when you put B1, butted up, and that's the most restrictive, I believe, business district, right? Is there going to be, it does abut 3 lots? That's why I asked, should we impose any type of restrictions or require a landscape buffer or?
And landscape buffer after, so just to be clear on kind of what the immediate goal is, you see the sign, there is a goal to have a restaurant there. If B1 is accepted, a restaurant is not a by right, it's a show us your site plan, go to Board of Adjustment and get specific approval of that use. However, it's a zoning ordinance, anything that's within B1 is a viable solution. So that's one thing we're gonna look at before the next, I think this lays over in any way. And I'll get you some specifics on that and also do some research on how this is approved in Baldwin County.
It's not entirely heard of someone rezoning property and then turning around and selling that property to someone who wants to do something else with it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily nefarious or,
It
but
happens.
It happens.
Yeah. And
if
B1
they're
is
asking for annexation, I think that we have a little latitude to.
I would want to know. I mean, I would want to be sure, So it lays over, so we'll have time.
Yeah. And B1 is the kind of neighborhood business district, so of the business district, it is more designed to be next to residential neighborhoods. So it has some restrictions. Okay.
Okay. All right, we'll let this lie over for final consideration at next council meeting. Item 11, site plan review and approval at the request of the applicant, Overstreet and Associates, on behalf of the owner, Bonaventure 2, for site plan approval of Staggers mixed-use project. The property is approximately 0.2 acres and is zoned B2, General Business District. The property is located on Morphy Avenue, west of South School Street. The Planning Commission unanimously recommends approval.
Thank you once again. This is a site plan review. It also had a MOP that was approved by the Planning Commission, conditioned on this site plan getting approved. To kind of show you the zoning, this is Morphy Avenue and School Street, so it's easier probably to see with this aerial. You've got the Methodist Church on the screen. The bandstand for the concert is right across the street. For the Live at 5, all the concerts there at South. And it's this empty lot in question. In general, it is a 1 unit on the ground floor, commercial, and 2 residential units above. So to kind of show you, one of the kind of quirky things about this one was drainage and access, and there has been an easement provided from the church for some access and drainage on how that's shared. That was provided to us. And there's one other any sidewalks approved within the CBD has to be 8 foot wide. So I want to be very clear as what we're recommending approval for here. And it's 8 foot wide unless approved by the city council. By the zoning ordinance, you can approve something that is 6 foot wide. There are, because of planters and some other things, sidewalks that are 6 foot wide in certain sections, but in others, they're 12 foot wide. So we are meeting all ADA. We recommend approval of this. It kind of helps get some of the pedestrian circulation through while also providing 2 new parking spaces in the right-of-way that will not be reserved for any tenant or resident of this project. To kind of give you some elevations, this does meet our height requirement. Comes in just a hair over 39 feet to the top of the parapet. It's designed to screen roof equipment. This is the Morphe Avenue side, and you can see how it steps back a little bit to the 2-story building on the back side that's more adjacent to the residential neighborhood, or residential neighbor on the back side.
What's that setback on the back side there?
There is no setback on, this is within the CBD.
Okay, so it's
So
lot
in
line to lot
B2,
line?
there is a buffer required on the backside because it does abut single-family residential zoning. But other than that, no setbacks. It's not really built to the, to go back here. Even the front setback line, there's a courtyard provided, not built to there. There is space between all property lines and the edge of the building, so not maximizing every square inch, leaving some room for kind of that back of house items like air conditioning equipment, transformers, and the like. Going through, that's the rear elevation, and maybe the floor plan's best. There's one unit on the ground floor, commercial. This is intended to be, the developer is the resident in the larger residential unit. So they've been very candid that they don't intend this to be a restaurant or something that's late at night. So it does intend to be kind of a daytime operation. The second floor, what you see, the red line splits 2 units. So main primary resident on the front, secondary smaller unit on the back of the building, and then as you go, I'm gonna flip to this 3rd floor. There is no second floor of the 1 unit, but the principal residential unit has a second floor within their property, or within their bounds of there. There are 2 parking spaces provided in the street, 2 behind the building, so 2 residential parking spaces were required. This otherwise meets all of the other requirements. I won't read every one of them because there's no conditions of approval, but all the lists that we typically look at was reviewed. Staff recommends approval of this SR 24.07 Staggers Mixed Use Project. Planning Commission also recommended unanimously approval for this project. If there's any questions, this is a site plan review, so this is one and done meeting unless you want to hold over, have any questions. But I'm here if we can answer those tonight.
Council questions?
Yeah, what was the parapet, was it 40 feet, 39, what was it, like 39.1?
3910, I believe. Let me double check.
Yeah, right at 40?
We do have the engineer, owner, and architect here, if there's any questions that I cannot answer. It is on this plan, yes, 39 feet, 10 inches, and that is to the top of the parapet, so we like to see that. And if you look on this plan, you can kind of see the dash line, so that's the actual roof deck.
Got it.
So the parapet screens that. There were some questions of rooftop equipment and where those are. There's also kind of a service area on the eastern side of the property where I believe some air conditioner units and some other things. There is also probably best to see on, oh, that was the best plan, but I just gave you the north side, so my fault. There is a required landscape buffer in the rear as it abuts the residential property to the south.
They're gonna bury that property.
And there is a landscape plan that's been reviewed and approved for that.
Hunter, am I looking at this correctly? There would be 2 additional parallel parking spaces one more feet, and it looks like maybe 4 parking spaces to the rear.
We don't really count double parking, but they've provided the 2 required for us. Now, if the residents want to double park and juggle cars around,
Okay.
that's fine.
So
it-
there's really 4 then.
4 with room to park another without impeding on the church's property or any other.
One of the reasons I noticed in the rear, there was a handicap parking spot there. Is that required for the commercial component?
We have been told no, so there's a little bit of flexibility on what use is going in there. Right now, it's kind of shown as a white box. So there could be, but we would review that at building permit, and figure out what would need to be done to accommodate that. We feel confident between the 2 on space there and in the rear, it can be accommodated if needed. And the front has been designed to be an ADA access.
Okay.
And we had that in a previous form, so we'll double check that at building permit when we see what the use would be on the ground floor.
Any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion for site plan approval.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, it's approved. Thank you, council. Item number 12 is a resolution. Mayor Sherry Sullivan is hereby authorized to execute change order number 2 for the working waterfront and green space restoration project with a cost of $251,690.30, and to award change order number 2 to Roland Construction. The new contract total will be
$10 million.
$10 million, I'm sorry, $240,069.76.
Okay.
And authorize the transfer from the general fund to the federal grants fund in the amount of $251,690.30. And Mr. Johnson briefed us on this. We've got some corrugated metal drainage at the top of the hill that's rusted out.
Yeah.
And it's failing, and we don't want to have a brand-new working waterfront and then have a failure at the top of the hill. So this
So
would be
moved.
to cover that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I would just add that it is a possibility, not a guarantee, that this may be covered under the grant proceeds. It may, if we come in under budget, which is possible. So with that, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 13 is a resolution that Mayor Sullivan is hereby authorized to execute a contract amendment number 1 with Pipe Suite, a division of pain management, for professional consulting services with a not-to-exceed amount of $10,080. The new contract total will be $63,240. I believe this was for an additional 24 licenses needed by the gas department and others that use this software. I'll entertain it.
moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 14 is a resolution. The city council approves the selection by Mayor Sullivan for professional traffic engineering services for RFQ PS 25-24 for the Twin Beach Corridor Study to Neil Schaefer, and hereby authorizes the mayor to negotiate the not-to-exceed fee to be approved by the council. And this will be funded by the Eastern Shore MPO. We're looking at about $40,000. Entertain a motion to approve the selection.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 15 is a resolution that Mayor Sullivan is hereby authorized to execute a contract with Volkert for professional engineering services for the Airport Industrial Park environmental assessment with a not-to-exceed contract amount of $104,518, and authorize a budget transfer from the general fund to the capital fund project in the amount of $104,518. This is a requirement for us to receive the HUD grant and to the tune of $3 million. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the,
Make a
Execute the
motion to
contract.
approve.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And once again, if we're going through this quick, we went through all this ad nauseum in the work session. So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Item 16 is a resolution. The City of Fairhope approves the procurement of a complete weather safety system for Founders Park and the Fairhope Soccer Complex from Perry Weather as the sole source, and authorizes procurement based on the option by the Code of Alabama with a not-to-exceed purchase cost of $30,000 and a $3,000 per year subscription cost, plus a one-time shipping fee of $800, and authorizes the mayor to execute the contract. Entertain a motion.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Item 17 is a resolution. The City of Fairhope approves the award of the request for quotes for labor and materials for the installation of an ADA ramping system for entry to Majors Field to MH McLaughlin LLC for a not-to-exceed cost of $17,500. This is a public works project, which is less than $100,000 and therefore does not need to be formally bid out. We also had long discussion on this in the work session, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the award.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 18 was pulled from tonight's agenda. Item 19 is a resolution. The City Council hereby approves the negotiated price and contract terms and conditions for bid number 25-15, beverage vending and concession annual contract, and awards the bid to Coca-Cola Bottling United Central with the total bid proposal attached. You'll have that in your council book. We had rejected bids back in January and negotiated a new price, and they've come back with the negotiated price. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the negotiated price.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 20 is a resolution. The City Council authorizes and approves hiring a driver of grade 4 assigned to work at the Nick Center to assist with delivering meals to homebound senior citizens, and to allow the current driver of grade 4, who is retiring April 17, 2025, to work together, train the new employee prior to retirement. This is beneficial to both the city and the new employee. The temporary position will expire upon the retirement of the current driver.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the hiring. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 21 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute change order number 1 for the agreement with Long's Human Resource Services to supply temporary services or supply temporary employees to supplement the existing workforce. This change order will add custodian services for the Nick Center. This change order will increase the not-to-exceed cost to $75,000. These services are exempt pursuant to the Code of Alabama and authorizes the treasurer to transfer $23,000 from Nick's salaries to temporary contract labor, raising a total to, I believe,
75.
52,000. I'm sorry, it's
75.
it was previously 52,000, right? Okay. All right, entertain a motion to execute the change order number 1.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Item 22 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope approves the procurement of ClearGov budget book software for a not-to-exceed cost of $5,850 for fiscal year 2025 and $11,700 for fiscal year 2026, and authorizes the mayor to execute the service order. This purchase is exempt from formal bidding per Code of Alabama 1975. And we also discussed this at length in the work session, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 23 is a resolution. The City of Fairhope approves the procurement of genetic server storage expansion for the Fairhope Municipal Jail that is on the Omnia Partners contract with SHI International and therefore does not have to be let out for bid. The total is a not to exceed $32,008.07. And I just want to remind you that that will be taking, I believe, from the Corrections Fund.
That's right.
So
And I
all
think
in-
we amended that to add to the end of that.
Yeah, so that resolution, as you see in your book, would be the $32,008.07 will come from the Corrections Fund. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the procurement.
So moved. Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 24 is a request from the Friends of Halsted Incorporated for street closure on the school street between Morphy Avenue and Fairhope Avenue for the Live at 5 concert at Halsted Amphitheater for bus and truck parking for the dates of April 11th, 2025, and again, April 25th, 2025. Chief Hollinghead has informed us that all the paperwork is in order and there's no reason to deny this request.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, you have a motion and a second to approve the request. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. What we've all waited for, public participation. All right, so the mayor has briefed everyone as to the latest. I know that you heard from the council, if you were here, the beginning of the meeting, gave our comments. So I would ask you to come up to the podium. If you are, I would ask you, I won't require it, but if you do want to say the same thing as someone else, I'd ask you to maybe not repeat it, but once again, I'm not going to require you to not speak. So if you have something to discuss with the council, if you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Council. My name is Jennings Wright. I'm at 114 Spring Drive here in Fairhope.
Is that mic on?
I don't think so. I can't hear.
Is that light on that
Is that,
mic? It is.
is that a little better?
There you go.
better.
All right. My name is Jennings Wright. I live at 114 Spring Drive. I'm here to read the letter from over 100 Fairhope residents that was delivered and read at the aforementioned APLS meeting to Chairman Wall. First of all, I'd like to make a public comment that I appreciate the council's support of the library tonight, and in particular, Mr. Burrell, your discussion about due process and what that process is supposed to look like. So I am one of the aforementioned over 100 signees of this letter. Delivered on February 7th to Chairman Wall. We, the undersigned parents of the Fairhope, are writing to express our unwavering support for the Fairhope Public Library and its dedicated staff. Our library is a cherished public institution that has consistently served our families with professionalism, integrity, and a steadfast commitment to providing resources that respect the diverse needs of our community. That's why we feel we must address your recent remarks suggesting the public library, Fairhope Public Library, and its staff are out of control and disrespectful to parents. These comments are not only deeply troubling, but completely unfounded, and they misrepresent the experience and sentiments of the vast majority of Fairhope parents. The fact of the matter is that the people of Fairhope love our library and trust our librarians, so much so that we voted the Fairhope Public Library as the best place for kids to have fun in the 2024 Best of Baldwin Awards. At public meetings addressing censorship, library supporters have consistently outnumbered anti-library activists by a wide margin. Last year, the people of Fairhope wrote hundreds of letters urging you and the rest of the APLS board to reject proposed code changes tying state funding to censorship. And when you ignored our wishes and adopted rules that were even more stringent and invasive than the ones we rejected, we went out of our way to fill out opt-in forms, ensuring our children would continue to enjoy the same level of access to the library that they always have. We understand that the library contains a wide variety of materials for many different ages and interests, and we believe it is our responsibility, not the government's or anyone else's, to guide our children's reading choices. The Fairhope Public Library has fully complied with the new APLS administrative code changes, and their revised policies have already been approved by APLS. Therefore, we find it unacceptable that you continue to threaten and intimidate our library staff with the possibility of withholding state funding. We also take strong exception to your characterization of our librarians as being disrespectful to parents. Our wonderful library staff has shown nothing but professionalism, kindness, and respect as they strive to meet the diverse needs of all the families in our communities. They have consistently worked to ensure parents have the tools we need to guide our children's library experiences, from clear policies to collection development practices that respect the broad educational developmental needs of our young readers. They honor parental rights by empowering parents to make the decision for our own families rather than imposing one group's belief on the entire community.
And by the way, I'm granting him additional time, just in case. Ignore the end.
It is troubling that despite the clear and overwhelming public support our library enjoys, you appear to prioritize the concerns of a small but vocal group of detractors. This group, the self-styled Moms for Liberty, has done nothing but sow division and undermine individual liberty since they came here, and they do not represent the values of our community. Their attempts to restrict and control access to words and ideas are wholly antithetical to the spirit of Fairhope, a town funded by utopian free thinkers who were inspired by an idea they read in a book. The vast majority of Fairhope parents trust our library and its staff to act in the best interests of our children and community. We trust them to provide a safe, welcoming space for our children to learn, grow, and explore. We trust them to shelve materials appropriately and then to respect our parental rights to guide our children's reading choices without undue interference from the state government. Libraries have long stood as bastions of intellectual freedom where all citizens can explore ideas and make their own informed decisions. The notion that a state agency like the APLS would attempt to coerce libraries into self-censorship under vague and subjective standards of what is inappropriate is highly troubling. Our library serves as a mirror of our community's richness and diversity, and we believe every family in Fairhope deserves to see themselves represented in the collection. We, the parents of Fairhope, affirm our trust in and support for the Fairhope Public Library. We stand united in defense of its mission to provide access to knowledge and uphold the principles of intellectual freedom. We call on you to cease your threats and intimidation and to engage with our community in good faith. Rather than casting aspersions and threatening funding, we invite you to recognize the Fairhope Public Library as a model of excellence that reflects the needs and values of the community it serves. The families of Fairhope will continue to support and affirm our library, just as it has supported and affirmed us. I'd also like to distribute a copy of this letter to both the mayor and each member of the council.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you for the additional.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm assuming a half a dozen people yielded their time to you, so I just foresaw that. Okay.
So my name is Sarah Bogdanovich. Thank you guys for having me here. I live at 618 Belangi Avenue in Fairhope. We just wanted to make sure to get on the record the response that John Wall sent the same day after receiving the letter that my colleague just read. So on that same day, among other things, I'm reading from the middle here to save everybody a little bit of time. It says, "I am thankful that the Fairhope Library has now come into compliance, and I look forward to working with them as we strive to provide the best library experience possible to all Alabamians." That was on February 7th. "I completely agree with your statement that the government should not be involved in banning books. I am a strong advocate of the First Amendment, and I will never support book banning or using the power of government to make decisions about what books parents allow their children to read. That should be a parent's decision, and I will always defend it. So perhaps we need to
Sounds
remind
like he
him
agrees with all of it.
of what he said.
Ms. Bogdanovich, who wrote that?
John,
Hold on.
so who wrote this was
who wrote
Mr.
that?
Wall, to whom the last letter that was read was directed, and then this was his response on that same day, confirming that the Fairhope Library is in compliance with the APLS. Thank you.
Evening, all. Dev Wakely, Lakeview Drive. Wanted to go ahead and say thank you for your words in support of the library. I greatly appreciate it. But I also wanted to take a minute to remind you of who we're up against here. And it's not just the APLS system that's going through these administrative failures and refusals to provide due process. Fundamentally, it's an anti-library, anti-public good organization that was created and will continue to exist as a political movement. These people do not believe in public goods. The only use they have for a book is to beat somebody over the head with one. The only use they have for that library property is to conduct public executions. They don't value public goods at all. We've seen what they've done in Prattville. We've seen what happens when these people get a modicum of control. They are fundamentally opposed to the things that make Fairhope Fairhope, all right? And we've heard many times them come into this council chamber. We've heard, leave the kids alone. I've heard leave the kids alone from a guy who is going to be nothing but an especially noisy redbird befouling my mailbox when my kids are still going to be in the Fairhope school system. These people do not deserve compromise. They don't deserve us to work with them on something that is palatable to everybody, because nothing is palatable to these people except the complete destruction of all public goods, all right? They are here to destroy the library, make no mistake about it. They're here to destroy everything about Fairhope, all right? Please keep that in mind. They are not to be trusted. They get up here regularly and lie repeatedly. They talk about how they're not out to ban books. Then they talk about making cases for the obscenity of some of the very works that they're trying to reclassify temporarily until they get the cachet to ban them completely. They are here for dominion and destruction, and they are not here for reasoned inquiry or cooperation. Please keep that in mind in everything that they do. Thank you.
Hello, Caleb Whitehead. I live in Burlington Drive. With a bit of a darker tone here. I'm here to give further support to my local library, but also voice some deep concerns I have with these ongoing attacks on our public library. Part of my resume as a healthcare provider includes working with victims of sexual abuse and teaching other healthcare providers how to recognize physical and sexual abuse in the pediatric population specifically. In most things with healthcare, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. For victims of abuse, those at risk of becoming victims, knowledge is power. It is the power to protect themselves. It is the power to protect their families and others. Knowledge about one's own body, about normal changes to their body, about autonomy, about consent, about personal boundaries. This is vital information that people need in order to be able to protect themselves. If our intention is really to allow these people to be safe and healthy, then needs to be freely accessible. And some estimates are that 1 in 5 girls will be sexually assaulted, 1 in 20 boys by some estimates. Reading any of these challenge books will not make that more likely, but barring access to them absolutely does. As you may know, children are much more likely to be abused by close friends or family members. What hope does someone have of getting the help they need if they don't have the knowledge that what is happening to them is wrong? Or even worse still, they're not even allowed the vocabulary to voice what is happening to them. I sincerely hope that organizations like Mom for Liberty are carrying on these attacks because they simply don't know any better, because the alternative is horrifying to think about. Why would an organization knowingly place children at risk? It may be worth bringing up that the legal age of marriage in Alabama is 16 years old with parental consent. The crowd shouting to protect the children is suspiciously quiet about child marriage. Would they approve of a married 16-year-old to read a book about sexual assault? What about a 15-year-old? At what age is it appropriate for a human being to learn about human behavior in a world they live in? Members of Moms for Liberty have long enjoyed the freedom to endanger the lives of their own children, and now they're pushing to endanger the lives of other children as well. It's worth noting that John Wall may have neglected to mention that Moms for Liberty has already infiltrated APLS. This was not a one-off parent of this city going to the board and then them spontaneously refusing our funding. This was an organized attack. Please stay strong against these loud, very dangerous organizations. Thank you so much.
Council President? if
Yes,
I
sir.
can, And I wish I would have said this.
Just a moment, please.
I do apologize. I wish I would have said this at the beginning and before we started public participation. But, you know, when I spoke at the beginning, obviously everybody in this room is incredibly passionate about what you're here to speak about. I think it's appropriate if we keep, regardless of what side of this issue you may stand on, if we keep keep the discussion to what we're in favor of and not let this devolve into some attacks on either side individually. If we can keep it towards what we're here to support and why we think what we're doing is the right thing. I think if you've got something negative to say about the people sitting up here, by all means, please let it be known. But if it's about people sitting in the crowd, I think we're probably better off letting that be heard at another time. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, what I'm here to talk about tonight very much ties into what Caleb just talked about, which is one of the books that Moms for Liberty brought up to Montgomery. So my name is Mette McCall, and I live on Broadbeck Lane in Fairhope. Have lived there for the last 11 years with 2 kids in public schools here. So yeah, this book here is titled Sold by Patricia McCormick, and it is a National Book Award finalist. It's listed in the American Library Association's top 10 list of best books for young adults, and it has won a slew of awards. And it was 1 or 2 books in question at the Montgomery meeting that Moms for Liberty brought up. Why? Because it's a powerful, so why has it won so many awards? Let's go back to that first. Because it's a powerful tool for raising awareness of human trafficking, fostering empathy, and empowering young readers to understand and address complex social issues. Sex trafficking is a mature theme, but it is presented as a cautionary tale within a context that highlights the brutality and injustice of trafficking, rather than sensationalizing it. The novel is not merely a narrative, but an educational resource. It provides a platform for discussing difficult topics like exploitation and the resilience of survivors. Education, essential for young people trying to navigate the complexities of the world effectively. We just heard some very sobering statistics from Caleb a moment ago. And this is where my worldview fundamentally differs from Moms for Liberty. We both want to protect our children. But instead of educating and empowering teens with knowledge, Moms for Liberty wants to shield teens from ever accessing any information about bad stuff that could happen to them. Knowing about sex trafficking is not harmful to teens, but being sex trafficked because you didn't know this could happen definitely is. The fact that the presence of this book in the teen section rather than in the adult section of the Fairhope Library contributed to the library losing its state funding is just a travesty beyond comprehension. But I am so encouraged to see the Fairhope community now actively speaking up against Moms for Liberty. As I'm writing this, we managed to raise 86% of the $42,000 lost in state funding that we now that we now fortunately learned was just 21,000, but that's even more good news. And no, this is not from Soros-funded outside actors that, the other side love to say it is. I encourage anyone to look at the list of the donors on that fundraiser website. It's public information. You can go and look at all the backers. There's a little tab for that. On that list of donors are your Fairhope neighbors protesting the harmful efforts of a small group of people. It's heartening to read the comments from these donors. One of the comments specifically is related to this book. She writes, "I wish I had the opportunity to read a book like Sold as a teen, because at least then I would have known what was happening to me when I got lured into human trafficking as a young adult. These bans aren't protecting children from anything but reality." Thank you.
Hello, council members. My name is Roseanne T-Bay. My child predominantly resides at 21944 Veranda Boulevard in Fairhope. She's 7 years old and regularly attends the library with her grandmother during the week. I just want to speak off the cuff because my child has questioned her gender identity since she was 3 years old. And that, I believe, is the result of being born that way. It's not that I planted ideas or nurtured any sort of way that she should experience gender. I allowed her to play as she freely wished. I allowed her to dress as she freely wished. And when I sought a book that would help talk about such issues, I'm glad the Fairhope Public Library had them in their circulation in the age-appropriate area. I am a victim. I was a victim of incest at a very young age. And I wish that I had access to public resources to help me learn that what I experienced as a young child was not normal, even though it does happen to 1 out of 4 children, women. And thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name's Brent Wiles. I live at 21307 Rolling Oaks Drive in Fairhope, and I am Fairhope High School class of 2000. So according to what I think I understood from Mayor Sullivan, as well as what I've heard was reported in that letter, our library was identified by the ABLS as in compliance with the law. So my understanding is the funding was paused in response to objections from this group of people, or a small group of people associated with Moms for Liberty, if not Moms for Liberty members themselves. It alarms me that in a democratic society, as been discussed, this small group of vocal extremists has disrupted funding to a public institution like our library, again, without any due process. And so I understand, the reason I bring this up here is I understand that this group, Moms for Liberty, intends at some point to petition this council to withhold funding to our library. And that is why I think it's relevant to be heard tonight. And I don't know what else you would call an attempt to threaten our public library's funding, besides, at best, an attempt for censorship, and at worst, an attempt to close it. And something that I hope we all agree is absurd. This is an anti-government group, based on what I've read about them. They have a title of self-anointed joyful warriors, and Moms for Liberty has adopted the slogan, "We do not co-parent with the government," which is ironic because this appears to be an attempt to anything but that. Moms for Liberty is trying to push our local government to force their parenting on all of us. through censorship and by removing free access to public libraries and their resources in our community. I'll remind you, this is the same group that alleges teachers are indoctrinating our children with ideas like critical race theory and LGBTQ plus ideology, and we all also know that's nonsense. You know your teachers and your educators. There are friends and neighbors. People like Betty Stayskool, Cecil Christenberry, John Cardwell, Angie Hall, Leah Conaway Washington aren't indoctrinating anyone, and neither are our librarians. This group uses lies to prey on baseless fears. They are anti-government, anti-public education, and anti-democracy. I would like for them to stop trying to force their ideology onto our community. So council members, I urge you, if and when this group does come before you and petition you to cut or remove funding to our library or other institutions, ignore this tiny but loud group that is funded and supported by extremist outsiders. While it may have found a few local sycophants, Moms for Liberty is a multi-million-dollar organization founded in Florida. They do not represent our community.
Good evening, Gustavo Dwight, Idlewild neighborhood. I am troubled by the attacks on our local library. They are the exact same tactics that the socialist government and authoritarian government of Venezuela used to ban books and other information in that socialist government destroyed what was once the most stable democracy in Latin America. I grew up there, so I would know. Since I was last here, I've made it a point to read the books that these people would like to be banned. And I've read 22 of the 35, and I can guarantee you that they have not read them. And sure, they maybe have read a passage here or there that was forwarded to them on Facebook, but I can assure you they have not sat down and read all of these books. And I know this to be the case because I'm here to report to you that after reading 22 of these books, I have not found any pornography. Yes, a few of the books, not many, have sex scenes, but context matters. A lot of the books that feature sex do it in the context of sexual assault. And I'm not gonna lie to you, those scenes are difficult to get through, but that's intentional. The pictures of sexual assault should be difficult to read. And again, context matters. Merriam-Webster defines pornography as the depiction of erotic behavior intended to cause sexual excitement. Are we to assume that passages depicting sexual assault are causing people sexual excitement? My guess is no. I don't think anybody would find sexual assault arousing. And that's how I know these people have never read these books, because they keep calling them pornography. So if nearly all of the books that they're trying to ban have no explicit sex scenes, you might be wondering, what is a common thread? Well, I'm here to tell you. Some of these books deal with eating disorders, depression, and suicide, which are very important topics for teenagers. Some deal with LGBTQ issues and the struggles that teens under that umbrella face, such as being kicked out of their own homes by homophobic parents and ending up in unimaginable situations with no support system where they can be preyed upon. Some of these books deal with racism and how tough it is for teenagers to face that discrimination. So it's not pornography they want to ban. It's books about discrimination, racism, vulnerability. It's books that teach teenagers how to cope with bad relationships or tough situations. It's books that would help teenagers identify signs of abuse that a friend or sibling might be facing. That is a common thread in these books, not pornography. They also want to remove this book that deals with consent. They want to ban a book that teaches children that they can say no to inappropriate touching. I'd be happy to show you this book after this meeting. It's very short. It explains to children that their bodies are theirs and not for anyone to do anything inappropriate with them. But they've labeled it pornography. If they feel so strongly that a book about consent is pornographic, they don't have to read it. But that's not enough for them. They also want to make sure no one in our community reads it. So I'm here once again saying words that I thought I'd never be saying. Do not succumb to the people using the tactics of the authoritarian socialist government that I fled. Yes, these people are loud and they are well organized, but they are a minority and they are wrong.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl. I'm Burlington Drive, Fairhope, Alabama, 36532. Good evening tonight, and I am here to share my experience because I actually drove up to Montgomery, Alabama to participate in the Alabama Public Library Service meeting. During this meeting, Mr. Wall claimed he wanted to hear from all and that he believed in the First Amendment right. Yet, his actions told a very different story. I presented that letter that you guys all received with his parents' signatures, and he ignored those who voiced support for our library and even failed to visit the public library to assess the collections firsthand. Now that he is coming, is what I'm understanding from Mayor Sullivan, and instead aligned himself with Moms for Liberty and a small group of individuals, many of whom do not live in Fairhope and have pushed a very false narrative. Immediately after public comments have ended, board member Amy Minton aggressively moved to strip Fairhope's library funding or paused it without notice, without discussion, and based entirely on misinformation. And as you have stated, Jack Burnell, without due process.
Could you give me your name again?
Cheryl Corville. Sorry, Amy Minton is the board member.
The one that made the motion?
Amy Minton. The Fairhope Public Library has fully complied with APLS Regulations 520-2-2.03, parentheses 2, parentheses I, which ensures that the sections designated for minors do not contain inappropriate material. That regulation further clarifies that age-appropriate materials on religion, history, biology, or human anatomy should not be misrepresented as violations. Yet, despite the Fairhope libraries following these guidelines, the board chose to ignore their own rules in favor of political theater. Fairhope's APLS board representative, Ron Snyder, was the only member with the courage to vote against this reckless decision and speak out against it. His opposition made it clear that defunding our library was not just unjust, it was a direct violation of board's own policies and government overreach. This is not about protecting children. It is about censorship and control. And during this meeting, some speakers openly stated that certain books goes against their personal beliefs. This is not library oversight. It is an attempt to impose a narrow religious agenda on public institution. The United States was founded on both freedom of religion and freedom from religion. Public libraries must remain neutral, serving all members of community regardless of personal beliefs. Fairhope itself was founded on utopian free thinkers. They claim to protect children, but their actions have proven otherwise. You have heard it, and will continue to hear it. Excerpts taken from books out of context, misrepresented as pornography, and used to justify removing essential materials to teach consent, body autonomy, and puberty. As part of the reasonable majority, I stand with the Fairhope Public Library, and I appreciate that this city council, in recognizing it as a model of excellence, one that upholds intellectual freedom and serves the true needs and values of all members of our community. And I also appreciate you for condemning Wall's actions and his statements about our library. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Randall Wright, and I live at 137 Stratford Street. It's my honor to be a member of the Board of Trustees, and I just want to thank all of you for being here and for your support for our library. And I want to thank all of you for being here and showing support for our library. We've had a difficult few days answering phone calls and trying to keep everything straight and make sure that the right information gets out. I just cannot express enough for the library staff and for the members of the Board of Trustees our appreciation for your support, your being here tonight. Before I finish, I just wanted to take a few minutes, but I do want to introduce Rob Gourlay to everyone, if you don't know him already. This is our new library director and a brand new dad.
Roxanne.
Rob Gourlay, 27500 Daphne, Alabama. I just wanted to echo everything Randall said. Obviously, this community cares deeply for our library, and I have the honor of serving as library director. I would be remiss if I didn't mention, while we had a captive audience, that on April 22nd, we're celebrating the grand opening of our renovated spaces, as well as this is our anniversary year. Fairhope Public Library is 125 years old. So all of council and mayor is invited to that. It's at 4 p.m. on April 22nd, as well as everyone in this room. So thank you.
Hi, my name's Jada Pryor. I live at 9376 Twin Beach Road, the Flats at East Bay Apartments. Very nice. I just want to kind of come here and speak as a single mom. I have 3 kids, and there are a lot of days that I wish my biggest problem were shelving sections at a library. There are a lot of days where I wish that I had the time to get real huffy about teen sections. Having said that, being a mom is the most important thing to me, and being a mom in Fairhope was a dream for me. The things I try to teach my kids are that books are magic, that they allow us to see different viewpoints, different cultures, different ways of thinking, and different experiences. I try to teach them that loving Jesus does not mean storming the gates as a fiery warrior against literature, but rather to minister to the least of these. I try to teach them that when we love something, whether it be a person, a city, or a country, that we don't blindly follow or allow it to forget who it is, but instead call it to be its very best self by reminding them of who they are. And to me, what Fairhope is a city of dreamers, of free thinkers, of writers like Rick Bragg, and artists. And also a place where a mom like me, who doesn't live on a house on the bay, who fights every day to stay here and raise my kids, can make it and give them a life with things like trees that hang over the roads and bookstores where they can meet their favorite writers, and most especially a library filled with staff that dedicates their lives and hearts to our children. I hope I will be able to continue to give them that, and I ask that you remember that there are citizens like me here who rely on them and who count them as some of the people who truly allow me to give the kids, my kids, a life that they can only dream of. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. Elizabeth Williams, 702 Greenwood Avenue, Fairhope. I just wanted to thank you all once again for your continued support of our wonderful library and for continuing to stand strong in the face of enormous pressure. As many have stated, and I have confirmed numerous times, the library is in compliance with APLS rules. As you've heard, the APLS chairman told us himself just last month that we were in compliance. Nothing changed between then and now except for ramped up pressure tactics from these pro-censorship groups. APLS code changes do not require any library to relocate any materials, only to approve written guidelines that ensure library sections designated for minors under the age of 18 remain free of material containing obscenity, sexually explicit, or other material deemed inappropriate for children or youth, with exemptions for books on religion, anatomy, and biology. Our library has done that. They have complied with everything APLS has asked them to do. But that is not enough for some folks in this community. There is a small but vocal faction, they've been called out by name, I'm not going to do that think that they know better than trained librarians and better than all of the other parents what is appropriate for your children, for your children. The library has taken their challenges seriously, has spent, some would say wasted, countless hours, and thus taxpayer dollars, reviewing each and every book they have objected to. And the library even ended up moving a few books for older teens to the adult section out of an abundance of caution and to make sure they were in compliance. But still, that did not satisfy these folks. When they didn't get their way with all the books, they went up to Montgomery and somehow managed to convince the state library board that our library carries smut. But you know, and I know, that is not the truth. Y'all know because you've been there. You've looked at the books, and because you've listened when we give you facts like obscenity has a clear legal definition. There is nothing obscene in the library. Harmful to minors has a clear legal definition. Nothing in the sections for minors would meet those criteria. APLS code has failed to define inappropriate or sexually explicit, and until they do that, Alabama libraries must continue to rely on the existing legal definitions and their own discretion, just like libraries have always done. I want to be clear, there is no explicit content in the children's section. There is no need to move any books. And Chairman Wall's recent insinuations in the press that all of this will just go away if we just move the books is tantamount to extortion. Well, we don't have to let our library be held hostage by a handful of vocal extremists collaborating with a politicized and partisan state library board in Montgomery. I'm so pleased to announce that together our community has raised $35,000 in just 4 days. And as we've heard, that is more than enough to offset the pending state funds that have been paused. So our wonderful library can continue to operate without being beholden to censors. The world is watching Little Fairhope right now, and I am so proud of our little library that could. Thank you for your continued support of our wonderful library.
I want to say something that might be a little unpopular right now, given the room, but, you know, we don't want to be hypocrites. If there's someone in this room with an opposing view, you are free to express it, just like, you know, we all believe in the freedom of expression, right? So if you have an opposing view, you are, you know, don't be intimidated. There is a large crowd, but you are welcome to come to the podium and speak as well. Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Okay, seeing no one, I'm going to close public participation and ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move, make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
I'll be
No, you have the full three. I did not
Okay,
see you.
No,
My
you're
bad.
fine. Matthew Moon, 1976 Hunters Loop in Fairhope. I'm also a school teacher, middle school science teacher. I just want to quickly say thank you for standing up for the libraries. Thank you for calling out the due process or lack thereof with the pausing funding first before investigating. This is my third child. I've raised children in the libraries. My children are very well read, and I'm very thankful for the library here and other libraries. And I just want to say that I appreciate it, and you don't have control over the state regulations, but teens can handle difficult subjects. They have to all the time. They have to, when we learn about history, we learn about all sorts of stuff. And the idea that we have this subsection that they're freaked out about is just unfortunate. So thank you so much for supporting the libraries, supporting what everybody does. And that's all, real quick. Thank you.
Did I miss anyone? I got my spotters up here. Okay, is there someone else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion for adjournment.
A second? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you.